Greetings, dear ones. It is Sunday, the 11th of October. I am way late recording today. It is 5 minutes to 6 p.m. I'm not sure if that can still be considered Sunday afternoon with Maitri, but I'm going to pretend that it is. I had a weird night last night. These last few nights have been weird. I have the most darling little dog. Usually she's in my lap, and you will certainly see her at some time. The other morning I recorded my morning coffee with Maitri video, which I do 5 mornings a week for 20 minutes for my patrons. And Molly, her name is Molly, and she is a Chihuahua Corgi mix, which I'd never heard of. I figured it was just really random, but turns out it's a thing. They're called Chigis. And everyone knows me. You can see in the background the picture of a pug on my wall. I adopted 11 pugs in 12 years. I've talked about this before, I'm sure. All seniors. And they were the loves of my life. But in 2018, I lost my last 3 pugs. It was brutal. It was also the year of Hurricane Florence and me ending up in the hospital with a blood clot in my leg, a serious blood clot. So not the best year. And in January, I was searching for the right little dog. And after a kind of a little bit of a journey, I answered an ad on Craigslist, which I don't, I'm afraid of Craigslist. I'm not a big Craigslist person. But the thing is that I will only adopt or rescue a dog. And I'm 66 and I'm physically disabled. My feet are just not functional, really. I broke both of them. The doctor said I shattered them. It took me 2 years to walk right again. And then I had really severe neuropathy in my feet from being pre-diabetic. I've lost a lot of weight. I'm no longer in the diabetic range, but nerve damage is forever. So I'm very prone to falling. And after the pugs and before Molly, and I think I've probably already said this, but for those of you who haven't heard it, I had a trial adoption. I've never had a trial adoption. And these people liked me very much. But because of my age and my disability, it was a pit bull that I was going to adopt. A little girl pit bull, beautiful, kind of a red gold color. Sweetest baby in the world. She slept with me. We snuggled up. She could not have been sweeter. The only problem is, and I don't appreciate or accept the bad rap for pit bulls. Any dog can be a good dog or a bad dog, depending on their circumstances. Annabelle was a doll, but she was so strong. She could pull me down, not meaning to, not being mean. And when I decided with the rescue that it wasn't going to be a good fit, I cried my heart out for days. I had fallen in love with Annabelle, but it wasn't. When you're a disabled senior citizen that lives alone, you have to think about those things. And my children are all very present in my lives, but they don't live with me. And they worry about me. So as I think in the last issue, the last video, I showed you the fall pendant that I have to wear. The I've fallen and I can't get up commercials we all used to laugh at. Well, I'm not laughing now, folks. Anyway, so I realized I had to have a smaller dog. And for some reason, there are a lot of different rescues, smaller rescues, besides the Humane Society and the Animal Control Shelter, both of which I looked at. They were all big dogs. Labs and lab mixes and Rottweilers and pit bulls and all these dogs that could just make wonderful, loving companions. But I can't handle a dog that big. So, as a last-ditch effort, somebody said, I really don't like Craigslist either, but we found our current dog on Craigslist after we couldn't find one. And they got a wonderful golden retriever that they just love dearly. And so I thought, what's it going to hurt to look? And I found this ad, and it said, free to a good home, but you will be carefully screened, a Chihuahua mix. I didn't know anything about Chihuahuas. And I'm sorry the parakeets are like telling their story at the same time. All I ever heard about Chihuahuas was that they were yippy, nippy, barky, bitey, nasty little dogs. For all of you out there with Chihuahuas, you know that like pit bulls have a bad rep, so do Chihuahuas. Because Molly is a Chihuahua mix, and she is the most loving dog I have ever had. I'm sure the Corgi in her tempers whatever might be a Chihuahua trait that might be one of the harder ones, and she only has one eye. Somewhere in rescue, before those people adopted her, she had lost an eye in a rescue situation that wasn't well explained, but she'd been outside in a fenced yard with a bunch of other dogs, and she came in with her eye hanging out and immediately had to go into emergency surgery and have it removed. So I adopted Molly the 12th of January, 2019. She had only lost her eye the August before. And the people who adopted her and loved her had another Chihuahua that was being very nasty and beating up on Molly, and they wanted her out of there. They wanted her to have a wonderful, loving home. They wanted her to be safe, and they were afraid their longtime Chihuahua would hurt her. Oh, well, I went out, and they talked to me a lot, and they said I sounded exactly like what they hoped to find for Molly. And I said, well, I need to meet her, and I also wanted to see where these people were, how she'd been cared for, and etc. But when I walked in and they brought Molly in, Molly ran straight to me, jumped up in my arms. We kissed one another. It was love at first sight, and that kissing has never stopped. She'll be with me 2 years in January. So she's the easiest dog in the world. Sweetest, most loving, spends most of her time in my lap, but she is terrified of storms. And I mean, dogs are so amazing. I know that when a storm starts in the middle of the night and there's lightning and there's thunder and there's wind and it's loud, I know Molly's going to be a wreck. My vet even suggested, because I have to take Xanax on an as-needed basis for my mental health issues, and I've always got some here because I've always got a lot extra because I really take it very judiciously. She said, give Molly a half a tablet, which is, the tablet is a 0.5 milligram. So that's all I take. When I take it, and Molly's got half of that. And it takes a half an hour to work, but it will calm her down. About 2 o'clock in the morning, and I hadn't been asleep very long, I was binge watching a Netflix thing, and Molly, it's so amazing. There wasn't a sound. I did not hear it even raining. No thunder, no lightning, no wind. And she does what she does. She's a wee tiny girl, and we sleep in my huge oversized recliner. That's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day, why I can't sleep in a bed. But She sleeps, this recliner is huge. I used to have 4 pugs sleep in this recliner with me. So Molly and I, we don't take up a lot of space. And she snuggles up kind of on my side, hip area. She snuggles all up in a little ball there, all with her nose pushed into me, just the snuggliest, darlingest girl. But all of a sudden, when she gets terrified, because she senses a storm before it's even going to happen, she jumps up, she stands on my chest with her nose in my nose, and she will lick my face, and she will just, she's shaking like a leaf. I've never seen a dog shake that hard. As tiny as she is and as big as I am, and I hold her whole body with my 2 hands firmly to kind of, I don't know if you've ever had a dog with anxiety issues, but I've had pugs that had to wear thunder shirts that are very nervous, anxious dogs. And the pressure of the thunder shirt, which is kind of elastic but kind of snug, calms them. So I put my hands on her all the way around her and hold her firmly and talk softly to her and rest my cheek against her face. Usually, if it's not bad, she will calm down eventually and go to sleep. If she doesn't, and with the permission and suggestion of my vet, she will get Xanax. That little bit, that little half, which is just a 1/4 milligram tablet. But last night, I tried for an hour. I don't like to give her those pills. She's rarely ever had them, but when they're needed, they help. And at 2 o'clock, she jumped up like that. She was all anxious. I worked with her for almost an hour. I couldn't get her calm. I gave her the pill, and I just held her firmly and snuggled her, and then she's just all over the place. I had to get up 3 different times. I have a big fenced yard, and during the day, from the time we get up until dark, she goes several times a day. I go out with her because she's little, and I'm a protective mama. She goes out and goes to the potty outside. But when she came, they sent me with pee pads, which I had never used. I had tried a couple of times to use them with pugs, because pugs are notoriously bad potty trainers, and especially when you get the seniors. But the pugs would have nothing to do with them. Molly will go on these pee pads. She won't go in the house. I keep a pee pad by the back door where she usually goes in and out with me in the backyard. So I keep a pee pad there and a stack of them on the counter and just change them out when she needs to use them. She got up, she drank water, she peed, and then she did this thing where she loves bully sticks. I get these like really good all natural bully sticks online. I've got them on auto delivery. There's 12 in a package, and every 2 or 3 months we get more. She loves to chew on them. And it's so cute because I get the smallest size and they still look big for her. She's a wee tiny girl. But I always keep a couple on the rolling table next to our big recliner where we watch TV, take a nap, sleep at night, do whatever. Because sometimes it's earlier than normal when I go kind of turn in, as far as think of the chair as my bed when we turn in. And I'm going to be watching TV for a while, and it's early. And so she likes to chew on one of her chews. She also gets these white chew things that come from the vet there to keep her teeth clean. And right now, their name escapes me. I'll tell you later. So I keep some of those next to me. And for some reason, she'd had the pill. She did this one other time a few weeks ago. She was frantic to get one of those chew sticks. She usually never even wants to touch anything like that, especially when she's anxious in the night. So I gave it to her. Do you know that for the better part of the next 2 hours, she completely chewed one up, which could take her days. of just normal, the one in her bed that she plays with. And then she went through another half of one and had to keep getting up and down, go to the potty, get a drink of water. By 5 o'clock, I had not slept. And I finally went back to sleep, and she settled down because she wore herself out with those chew sticks and the Xanax kicked in, but it was over 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours we were awake in the middle of the night dealing with this. It's rarely that bad. It rarely happens at all, but when it does happen, usually within an hour, we're back to sleep. So, long story short, the reason this video is so late, I went back to sleep. I got up once in the middle of the morning to go potty, and I did not get up until after 1 o'clock. It's like, then you get up that late when you're used to being up between 9 and 10, and your whole day is all cattywampus and lopsided. So I am late doing everything today. I still have a big blog post to write, and that is the topic of the blog post, which I was thinking about yesterday and making notes, and which I thought about in the middle of the night. I've always got my phone next to me, as people do these days, and my favorite thing on the phone is a notepad function. And if I think of something I used to always have a pen and paper journal or something that I kept right next to where I sleep. And I still do, but I tend more to just grab the phone, hit the button for the note function, and just type in real quick whatever that fleeting thought is. And the fleeting thought and the title of my blog post, which I am also, which is not the norm, but which is also what I'm going to name this video, is Living in the Ephemeral Now. Now, first of all, I want to tell you that I used to teach mindfulness training for women. I did mentoring, I did classes, they were very successful. I'm still in love. Well, of course I love everybody. I mean, I'm still in touch with many of my ex-students. And one of them is in my Patreon community now. And when I have asked for feedback, because on Patreon I do the 20-minute coffee videos every morning, I share Maisie's art and my art process. I share journal exercises because I'm a journal teacher of 40 years. I share other kinds of creative exercises and thoughtful things, but it's all part of Maisie's world. The way of thinking and being, not just what Maisie's world looks like as art, but as I've said before, Maisie's world, because Maisie and I are both agoraphobic. You know, the people who don't leave their houses like ever. I didn't leave my house except for very rare exceptions when I had to be medicated to go out before COVID. So, and I quickly learned that, okay, if these four walls are my existence, so to speak, and I've got a roomy little cottage with a nice garden outside, and, I do go outside to garden, I needed to make the space that I have as homey and pretty and charming and cozy and magical and delightful as I could. And I love my little cottage. Dragonfly Cottage is my home for 20 years. And so Maisie's pictures are different scenes of her life in her home with her little animal companions and some little friends that might be imaginary because it's fantasy fiction memoir. But they are snapshots. A painting is a snapshot of a moment in Maisie's life. And I have to share this with you. I just got chills. I have been worrying and wondering what I should do, because for now going on 2 years, people have fallen in love with Maisie's art. But you see, what I did was just as different scenarios came to me, and you don't have to buy anything at Society 6. I'm not pushing selling merchandise. But the only place that you can see a nice collection of Maisie paintings, there's 33 of them, on Society 6, which is society6.com/Maisie's World. And when you land on that page, up near the top, there's 3 little words in the middle. I don't remember what the other one is, but there's one that you can click on in the middle that opens up a page that's not a sale page. It has all 33 of Maisie's paintings. So you can see them there. There's Maisie hanging laundry in her living room with little Daisy. Maisie and Daisy are Molly's and my alter ego. Molly standing up on her tiny little hind legs with a clothespin in her mouth, handing it up to Maisie. There's Maisie doing dishes with her friends. Wanda, the rainbow ex-showgirl, transgender snail. And Petunia, the mentally challenged flamingo. And Trudy Louise, a little cat that was left as a kitten on her doorstep. And Cornelius, the house mouse, who lives happily with everybody else, and Maisie feeds him. And anyway, so all of her little creatures and friends show up in her world. And, you know, it's a story of how you can create the world that you love, even with limitations of any sort. And I've talked about this in other videos, so I'm not going to go way into that. But that's been fine for now, probably nearly 40 paintings. But they were all so random. You know, it's just like I did one that I loved with Maisie doing the hula hoop and little Daisy standing up on her hind legs doing the hula hoop. And, you know, they were just like different snapshots of different moments in Maisie's life. And I went through sort of this crisis in the last week or so where I thought, all these paintings I've done are great. People love them. I love them. But they're all so random. And my idea when I opened my Patreon page was, since I am a disabled senior citizen living on Social Security and needed extra income to do my work, art supplies, whatever it was going to take to get Maisie's book out, I would open Patreon. I'd been waiting for 3 years to do it, and people kept encouraging me to do it. So I finally did, and the goal for starting the Patreon was to create Maisie's World. Individual art that could be sold in other places like Society 6 and other places of that ilk, or Etsy. But the main thrust was to write a book. And I thought, how can you write a book that has a storyline and yet it's all these random pictures? Well, that wasn't going to work. And I struggled with it. And yesterday, it just came to me. Having taught mindfulness for so long, and as a little aside, one of my ex-students said, I think I started to say this before, and in the circular fashion in which I talk, I lost it, and I'm apologizing for that. But she said, when I ask people what are the features that I'm presenting at Patreon that they really like, are there some that they don't so much like? Are there some they'd like to see? This particular woman has now said twice she wished that I would do the mindfulness work I used to do. Well, that's work I was very proud of, but it's not why I started Patreon. It's not really Maisie's World, and it's not everything I'm trying to do with the art. It just wasn't an appropriate fit. But then I thought yesterday, but I'm doing it. You see, because when I do those morning coffees with Maitri, these are not, though there will be moments that it will be, these are not deep philosophical teachings These are Maitri, just up, all the animals taken care of, morning coffee in hand, and talking about thoughts, feelings, experiences, what I'm working on with Maisie. Sometimes in Patreon I'm showing the art in process from pencil drawing to painted, finished picture. But I realized that everything that I am doing on my blog, here, Patreon, social media, wherever I am presenting content, it is all rooted in mindfulness. Living in the ephemeral now. Mindfulness is all about that which is ephemeral, temporary, transient, fleeting, transitions, transitory, evanescent. All those words describe the fact that this moment is brief, this day is brief, our lives are pretty brief, and they pass. And we typically spend so much time worrying about what happened in the past or what might happen in the future, or longing for things that have not come about yet, that we lose the present moment. It's that they are ephemeral. They're gone. If you live in the moment, as I am coming to you right now, and you can hear the parakeets bumbling about, and Molly's scratching, so you might hear the tinkle, tinkle, tinkle of the tags on her collar. And I have my work spread around me, notes, art supplies, getting ready to do the next painting. I am absolutely in the moment because it's all I can be. As a 66-year-old woman living with mental health issues, oh Lordy, Molly wants up. We're almost out of time, and I don't know if she's going to come up. No, she's wandering around. I want you to see her because she's the darlingest girl in the world. But anyway, if you live in the moment, as I come to you, kind of naked and alone and a little afraid and kind of shy and hoping that anything that I say matters, if I stay in this moment as I am right now, I feel a connection to you in time and space and all of history. This moment is a moment where we connect. And it's precious. And though it's ephemeral and fleeting, like a plant that will die, it will drop seeds that can come back the next year. The plant will die back and become compost for the next plant to come up. In other words, this moment is all we ever have. And if we live it as well as we possibly can, as fully as we can, as slowly as we can, we are living so present and so alive in the world. We are making this moment so tremendous that though it is fleeting, it feeds the next moment to come. This moment, well lived, is the ground of the beautiful possibilities for tomorrow and the next day and the next year and as long as we are alive. To that end, all of Maisie's world is about being in the moment. They are spotlighted moments of Maisie's life. The one I'm drawing right now is Maisie in a big old-fashioned bathtub, her arms hanging over the side, her eyes are closed. Tiny little Daisy the dog is jumping up, trying to lick her finger, and Petunia the flamingo is dipping her beak in the bath water, and Wanda the snail is up just above Maisie on a shelf, and Trudy Louise the kitten is playing with the cap to the bubble bath and making a mess. And it's a moment. It's a beautiful, perfect moment. Where will Maisie go when she gets out of the bathtub? Where will Maisie go tomorrow? I'm guessing the next moment and the next day will all be made more beautiful because she took this bath surrounded by her friends, peaceful, relaxing. She took care of now. And so what I will end with is, just this weekend, I have stopped worrying about how to do Maisie's art differently so that there would be a proper sequence to go with text. I'm not sure this book is going to have any text, maybe a line, because I want you to look at a Maisie painting, and I don't want you to get taken away by some story I might have told and got lost in the words. I want you to look at that painting, and I want it to reflect back to you what you need to see. And to that end, in that moment, in that ephemeral, fleeting moment, you have a moment with Maisie. And you are both changed. I look forward to sharing the work with you. I'll be sharing some of Maisie's artwork very soon. I would love for you, women, my Patreon community, as I have said in past videos, is a women-only community for very specific reasons, which I have explained in the past videos. All of my other work is public. My blog, social media, all the rest of it's public. And all of the links are below this video. So I will end here by asking you, dear ones, what can you do in this moment to create the fertile ground that you will build the next moment on? I'm sending you so much love and so many good wishes. I hope that you've been enjoying these videos. I would love to hear from you. I know they're not big, flashy, fancy, Hollywoodish videos. They're just me, sitting here in Dragonfly Cottage with my animals, creating art and sharing my heart with you. You are cherished. You are treasured. You are enough. You are everything.